Francisco Lindor back in the news today. Keith Law was on Bull and the Fox on 92.3 The Fan talking about the Indians' role in negotiations. According to Law, what I've actually heard is they would like to pay him, but he won't even entertain contract extension offers. Absolutely has right to do that. They've tried to have those conversations. There just hasn't been a negotiation at all. I personally think, knowing him and knowing who his representative is, they just want to go to free agency. My understanding is the team was willing to talk extension with him, and they just said, nope, I'm going to free agency. And I talked about this last night, Bud, that given those, if those in fact are true facts, that Paul Dolan will receive criticism. He'll be labeled cheap again. And sometimes you got to go to the player. And if you want to, first of all, I don't blame him trying to get the most money, but I do blame the fact that the fans assume that it's always the owner's fault, which in this case it's not. It might have been in the Tomey situation for that extra year and the extra amount of money. This one looks like it's all Lindor.
Yeah, and you touched on it. I mean, nobody out there would have a real serious problem with the fact that he wants to see what he's worth in free agency. I think it's his right, but I think if I were advising him, I would say the same thing. So I think, Les, and I know people say that the Indians will take it on the chin if they trade him, but if you don't trade him before, or in the early part of this season, before things get going, you're looking at a situation where your revenue is going to be down. There's no way you're going to pay him an arbitration number for next year, are you?
No, I wouldn't think.
How would you justify that? And most teams that you would be trading with know that you're not going to do that.
Right.
So,
well, the Indians start off behind the eight ball here because you quote small market team and all that stuff. But if Lindor's not even going to answer their phone calls or their texts or whatever they do these days, I'm not sure how you can just blame that on Paul Dolan. And I know people criticize me and say I'm pro-management here. Every once in a while, you should be pro-management.
I think if they'd almost have to get a shortstop back in any kind of a deal,
right?
Because I just don't think they have anybody ready to step in. So to make a deal, they'd have to try to fill that position with a legitimate major leaguer, and also get in the trade a guy who can help them win this year.
So we
and then you can justify it. But there's not going to be fans. Do we know that fans are even coming back this year?
No, doesn't look like. If they play, it doesn't look like fans will be involved at all.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we asked our Facebook participants, is it time for the Indians to move on from Francisco Lindor? Gregory Mees says probably the worst time to get rid of him with everything up in the air and nobody wants to trade players at this point. Aaron Wood says it's a tough one. On one hand, we hate to see him leave, but there's no chance they pay him what he deserves. On the other hand, they want to get all they can for him, but our team's willing to put together a good package deal on what could be a lost season due to the COVID-19. Glenn Berger says it's time the time has arrived to move Lindor. It's been reported by Lindor's agent that he wants to go to free agency. Boston acquired some very good ball players in exchange for Mookie Betts. I hope the Indians can do the same with Lindor. Unfortunately, I see the Yankees as a key player, either in a trade or signing Lindor in free agency. There will only be a couple of teams that will be able to afford him. Dennis Davis, sadly, the best time is before the start of this year in spring training. Make the best deal you can and then move on. It's not the Dolan's fault. Rather, it's MLB's lack of revenue sharing. Grin and bear it. Len Gold, in this horrific economic market, will Lindor find anyone who's going to pay him what he wants? Should he have taken what the Indians offered him? Ed Watkins, let's wait to see how this season plays out, if we have one, that is. So the tide turning a little bit as far as our Facebook subscribers are.
Yeah, I mean, the conventional thinking is that you could get more for him in a deal if a team is going to have him for 2 seasons instead of 1.
Right.
Already that's a season and a half, and we don't know how this one's going to play out. If somebody makes a trade for him now, we could have they could go back to playing, and there could be an outbreak of coronavirus, and the rest of the season gets canceled. So it's hard to imagine a team giving up a whole lot right now under these really unusual circumstances.
Right. Well, we're on